Thank you, everyone who's presented. Love the energy right now. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dodgers third base coach, Coach Dino Ebel, who is here to join us today. Coach Dino is in his second season with the Dodgers, and before joining the Dodgers, worked for the Angel organization and also worked in the Dodger minor league divisions as well. Coach Dino played baseball at Florida Southern College and spent 6 minor league seasons with the Dodgers. Last year, we were so happy to have Coach Dino join us shortly after joining the Dodgers coaching staff and be part of our 51st Dodgers Dream Field at Jack Bullock Park in Fontana. This Dodgers Dream Field specifically marked our second universally accessible field that provided children of all abilities a safe place to play baseball and softball. With Coach Dino being an Inland Empire resident, we were so thrilled to have him speak that day and join us for the dedication of that field. This is also a park where his grandchildren play at, so a lot of connections there. Thank you, Coach Dino, for joining us, and I'll throw it back to Sean to get started with our Q&A.
Thank you, Tiffany. Coach Dino, we have some very, very good questions for you today. First, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, and I'm glad I tuned in here a little bit early, man. I'm fired up, all the positive energy, and man, this is outstanding. It made my day completely. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go play. Let's go.
Well, we know Jeannie has been firing people up for years with PCA and Positive Coaching Alliance. So we knew that letting her go right before you came on here would fire everybody up. So all of our guests and attendees today are really excited to hear from you. We got a lot of good questions coming in, but I'll kind of start us off just to let everyone kind of get to know you a little bit better. Maybe if you could just talk a little bit about your life in coaching, how it developed, how it began, and then what ultimately led you to the Dodgers.
Well, it all started back in 1988. I signed as a free agent out of Florida Southern. I played 6.5 years in the minor leagues, and probably the last year and a half or two, I started mentoring a little bit of the younger guys that were coming up, all the hot prospects, all the middle infielders. And it came a time when I could have left the Dodgers as a minor league free agent, but at the time, Charlie Blaney, the farm director in the minor leagues, said that he saw maybe someday if I didn't make it as a player, I could have a chance of making it as a coach. And, I've always been there to help players. I felt that way. I was like I just felt I was a little bit on the way out of my tail end of baseball, but I've always wanted to be a coach after baseball ended. So the Dodgers asked me to stay on. I started a player coach at first, and then became a full-time coach. And then I managed 7 years in the minor leagues with the Dodgers, 1 with the Angels at AAA. But the passion, the desire, putting on that Dodger uniform every single day in the minor leagues and helping young kids, reach their goals. That was the start of it. And that led to, going to the Angels, being on Mike Scioscia's staff for 13 years at the major league level. And then last year, got an interview with Doc, Dave Roberts, and Andrew Freeman. The Angels did wanted me to come back, but when I went to go talk with the Dodgers, man, I was sold. I was going back home to put that Dodger uniform on, and I'm going, coming back for my second year, 19th year total in the Dodger organization, and I can't wait to get this season started.
Great. Yeah, it's really interesting, moving from one LA-based team to the next. What's really been the main differences in going from working with the Angels organization to the Dodgers organization?
Well, being with Mike Scioscia's staff, as everybody knows, to me, it was when I left the Dodgers to go to the Angels, I still felt like I was with the Dodgers because at the time, Mike Scioscia, Ron Renicky, Mickey Hatcher, Alfredo Griffin, they were all ex-Dodgers. They were all on that, 88 championship World Series team. And Mike brought the culture, the team chemistry, all those things that went to the Angels. And today, I think he still made the Angels, the Dodgers in my heart. But it was an easy transition for me. And, and coming back to the Dodgers and being with Dave Roberts and Andrew Freeman from top to the bottom through the minor leagues, man, it's just, it felt like I've never left. So I've been in baseball 33 years and I put that uniform on with pride every day, still driving to the stadium, man, I get the chills and it's just an honor to be a Dodger.
Well, the Dodgers feel the same way. Lucky, absolutely lucky to have you on the coaching staff. But we now are going to hear from some of our panelists. They have come up with some good questions for you. First, we're going to start with our team from the Dodgers Training Academy. We have Eric, Brian, and Shauna with the Academy. And Eric's going to pose a question for you here first, Coach Dino.
Okay.
Hey, Dino. So it's kind of a two-part question here. So the first one is more for you and your experience, and then the second one is more for kind of parental advice. So as a former player, as a youth player, and then going up through, the farm system, you've been in situations where you've had new coaches or new instructors, obviously new teammates, and cultures from one team to the next can vary quite a bit. So how did you, as a player, adjust to the new information, people, and then also the coaching or instruction?
Well, I think you just have to be open-minded. It's a great question. I think if you have an open mindset and you're willing to learn, different coaches, different instructors, different people, teammates, if the way I approach it every day is I go to the field, I put the uniform on and try to learn. So I've always had an open mind. I've always felt that, there's things that people are going to say in the coaching ranks or as a player, and there's going to be things you like, things maybe you don't like. And then you put it into your own little, like I call it my little old, my own model that this is what I would take, this is what I like, and just try to be positive about it. The biggest thing that I try to tell people all the time, man, we put that uniform on every day, and we get paid to do that. And to keep an open mindset and learning and being positive creates a good culture. People around you, leadership, all those things you guys always talk about come into play. So that's how I kind of took it, take it every day, still to this day, to learn as much as I can and learn from each other.
So would you say that's also for the youth at whatever age they might be, making a transition from, let's say Little League to moving into a travel ball organization or select team? Would you say that that's the exact same advice you would give to the parents to kind of pass on to their kids?
Absolutely. I think, different coaches are going to teach different style, but I think, if as a youngster going in, I got two young boys, 12 and 11, and I always try to teach them, be open-minded, because they're around us a lot at the major league level. So they hear us talking, they might hear something different from their coach, but their coach is not trying to hurt them at all. They're trying to help. They might say it differently. So parents shouldn't, I don't get upset. I always tell my boys, you're going to hear somebody teaching you how to take a ground ball. It might be a little bit different words that I say, but take what he's giving you. He is a coach. He's trying to help you get better. When you go to practice, he has a mindset as a coach. So I would just say, be open-minded. The parents need to, give the coaches some trust value there, because they're trying to help, and making the kid better every day that's the most important thing when they leave practice, is that they learn something that day.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, Coach Dino, that was really, really great answers and questions there from the Training Academy. One thing that is really unique about the Dodgers RBI program and a lot of the parents and coaches who are involved is the fact that many of the parents are getting their kids involved in baseball and softball for the first time, and also many of the parents are doing their first effort into coaching their kids and being involved as a youth coach. So many of our parents also double as coaches within our program, and a lot of them are doing everything for the first time. So beginning in baseball and softball for the youth, and then beginning in coaching for the kids. But I'm really glad that you did mention positive coaching, because now we have Jeannie Garcia from Positive Coaching Alliance who will be asking your next question.
Okay.
Coach Dino, so happy to see you. Thank you for being on with all of us tonight. Yeah, I want to give you something. What do you need? Do you need a high five, a double high five, a double fist bump, a hug? What do you need right now?
Yeah, all of it, all of the above. It's all good for me.
Okay, we're giving it to you. Here we go. Everyone, give Coach Dino double high five, double fist bump. Okay, hugs being sent right here. Hugs being sent right here to you.
All right. Thank
so
you.
much. Very excited to have you on. And
Thank
so, yeah, I'm wondering about, team chemistry, what you do specifically to build the team chemistry, and what is the dugout scene like? I mean, how do you keep energy up? How do you keep people who are like really excited, like calm? I want to know all those little tricks that you in 33 years have learned.
Well, I think that's a great question. And I think you said it, just staying calm, staying positive. As a coach, you're a role model. Even at our level, at the major league level, guys are going to look at coaches as their mentors, or if something goes bad, they always look to see how we react. I think it's very, very important for anybody, a mom, a dad, a coach, when their sons or a team or whatever they're watching, they make a mistake, stay under control, stay positive. The last thing, the words I like to use is slow everything down, take a deep breath, slow the game down. And like you guys were mentioning, people are going to make mistakes, but once the mistake is made, it's got to be, like you said, flush it down, and we got to look for the next play. So what I always try to do is I try to stay positive with the high energy, when to know, when to talk to somebody. If they made a mistake, it might not see at our level. There's a lot of cameras on, a lot of people watching. So there might be not the right time when a guy makes a mistake, don't bring him in and the cameras are on. You might have to pick a spot, take your time, maybe the next day, maybe 2 innings later after he gets a big hit. So those are the little things. The team chemistry, when the guys are pulling for another, there's no selfishness on a team. That carries a lot of weight in a major league dugout during a game. And when a guy strikes out in a big moment, he puts the helmet down, puts the bat down, he steps up on that first step, and he's rooting for that guy that's sitting in that box. So those are the things that that creates good culture, good team chemistry. Everybody, like Tommy Lasorda always says, everybody's got to pull on the same side of the rope. If somebody's on the other side of the rope, it's going to mess everything up. So that's what's going good for us with the Dodger organization. Dave Robert is the leader at that. Everybody pulls on the same side of the rope. Everybody wants everybody to do well. So that comes with team chemistry, culture, and that's what the Dodgers are about.
You bring the standard of excellence, Coach. And so let's raise the roof for Coach Dino. Raise the roof, everybody.
I love it.
Thank you, Coach Dino.
Thank you.
Yeah, Coach Dino, if you need a new hype person at the stadium for any future games, you just let me know. We'll get Gene there quickly.
Yeah, that is great energy. I love it.
So one new thing that we've added to our coaches trainings this year, Coach Dino, is UCLA Brain Sport, who focuses on a lot of concussion education for families and for youth. And just because this is such a topic that is just grown and grown and grown over the years, we just felt like they were the perfect fit, because not only do they talk about concussion education, but other injury prevention. And today they cover the importance of young athletes and sleep and how that can affect their performance. So we have the team here from UCLA Brain Sport, and they would like to ask you a question focusing a little bit on concussions in MLB.
Okay.
Hi, Dino. I'm a Floridian, so it's nice to see you out here on this coast. The Dodgers are fortunate to have you. So I'm a neuropsychologist here with another neuropsychologist, Jesse Fisher, and Rachel Pearson, a pediatric neurologist. And our team at Brain Sport was wondering what is your impression of concussion culture in baseball throughout your career? Like, how has it affected you, and how have you seen it change over the time?
Well, it's very, very important in today's game. All of MLB, the first thing they tell us, we have signs in our clubhouse and about the safetiness of, what could happen on a ball field, guys getting injured. I think the biggest thing that I've seen from my, say, the old school way until the new school way is now guys they would go into the training room and tell the trainer if something's bothering them, or before it was like, you don't want to go in a training room. You might not play that night. It's not like that anymore. We communicate well with all our trainers. The trainers are about safety. They want to know if something's wrong, especially like you said in the concussion area, and a guy gets hit in a helmet or in the face. Happened in spring training this year. And man, it was first class. I mean, everybody on that guy's side took him to the hospital. I mean, it was, you know, checking helmets. I remember when that happened, our trainers went through everybody's helmets and making sure it was all safety first. And back in the old school days, you know, they did it, but you really didn't kind of see it, but behind the scenes. But now it's, they tell our players, they tell our staff, if anything is, you know, related to a head injury, any type of injury at all, please walk in that training room, let somebody know, because they are there to help you get better and keep you on the field. That's what it's all about.
That's such a powerful message to hear from someone at the professional level, because, you know, the youth players are looking up to you guys, and to hear that the pros are taking it seriously means that they will as well. So, you know, thank you for your part in helping improve the safety of everyone.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Love it.
Great question. And yes, it's something that I feel like people think about a lot when it comes to professional sports with concussions and the athletes, you know, working at such a high level. But it is something that I feel like is getting more attention now in youth sports as well. You know, younger kids having potentially issues with concussions, and now getting this type of information from an organization like UCLA Brain Sport is just really keeping parents so much, you know, better informed than in recent years. So it's really great to hear the improvements being made in the professional level as well as the youth sports level as well. So that's really great. Lastly, well, not lastly, but our fourth panelist today is Marisol Flores with Up to Us Sports. Up to Us is a great partner with the Dodgers Foundation. They actually have helped us with putting coaches on the field for our Dodgers RBI program, and they teach and train all of their coaches in trauma-sensitive techniques. So we had 30 planned coaches from Up to Us Sports. They go through their training within the program, and then typically they'd be out on the field using those techniques with our Dodgers RBI youth. So I'm going to let Marisol kind of pose a question to you about that.
Yeah. Hi, Coach Dino. How's it going?
Going good. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. No, thank you for being here. I think it's really refreshing to hear, you know, such a professional coach just talk about the joy of coaching. It seems, you know, you have this this joy about you when you talk about coaching. It seems like it's something you've always loved. And you know, you said something. You said, you know, you were happy about helping young kids to reach their goals. And yes, like we believe in that power as well. So I'd just like to hear a little bit more. What role do you believe sports and a great coach can play in improving the lives of our youth, of our young athletes?
That's a great question. I think a great coach, you know, I always try to read up on coaches in every sport, basketball, baseball, football. And it seems like the great ones are the ones that listen, the ones that care, the ones that have your back, as we say in sports. And, you know, sometimes as a coach, you walk in that clubhouse and 25 guys, you know, look at you. You don't know what they're thinking, but if you know that the communication and the relationships that coach builds with players and being a positive person, and this game's not perfect. I heard it earlier when I was on the call. There's going to be mistakes made, but as a coach, if you're in their corner and you're that role model, you're their mentor. Coming up through the Dodger organizations, there's men.
Oh, we might have had Coach Dino freeze up for a second. Let me double check.
Didn't you talk? They just listen, and they're there to help, and they're there to, you know, be your friend. And I think once that is established, I always look in it going into a room and communicating with people and trying to gain their trust by building relationships. And that's what great coaches do. And I know you have to be on the field. You got to make the X's and O's, and you got to make decisions where the players are all watching you. But I think if you're in their corner and you're listening and you're there for them, that's what makes, in my eyes, a great coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Dino.
You're welcome.
Yes, Coach Dino. So now we're getting into, we had a lot of really great questions come in from our guests today. Some were asking them in advance, some chimed in the Q&A earlier in the training. So hopefully we can pose a couple of these questions to you. A lot of parents were asking really about how to basically practice and what kind of tips you can give for young players that you really feel are most effective at developing when you're a younger player.
I think the main thing for me when you go to practice is maybe basically teaching fundamentals. I know I tell coaches all the time that everybody, you try to win ball games, but at the lower levels and at the little league levels and, even at the high school level, I know the coaches there are trying to win games, but the developing players, developing their skill set on the field, teaching the proper way to field a ground ball, teaching mechanics how to hit, running the bases. Those things carry a lot of weight in my eyes, because if you're doing that at a younger age and being positive and being motivated and being there for those young kids, and if they're going to make mistakes and they might lose a game, but never show that I always, that bad emotion of the win was more important than making an error. Well, you know what? There's nobody going to feel worse than that person who made that error. So as a coach, setting practice schedules, keeping an hour and a half practice on a practice schedule. It's more for players. They're more alert. They know they're not standing around and just waiting. So those are the things to me that I try to go around. And when I talk to young kids or talk in clinics, that's it's important for me to express that. It just teaching the basic fundamentals of the game. And as they get older and bigger and stronger and winning, that will all come.
Great. Yeah, that's really great advice. And on that note, we had a couple parents that kind of stayed on a similar topic, but kind of going in two different directions. We had some parents that were curious if they did have their son or daughter and they really were interested in taking their game to the next level as they were getting older. Maybe what kind of advice would you give them as they're getting to that high school level or potentially college level?
Well, first, I think you have to do good in school, like we always preach. You got to have good grades. And then second, I think if there's some, thought of going to the next level. Now, I know in today's world, and we always stress it with the Dodgers, and you're going to see it in all of professional sports, is eating better, a lot of vegetables, fruits, the sleep, all this stuff that you guys were talking about. I was like, my God, this is not just for the younger kids. This is happening at the major league level. So I think that's the next level. A lot of kids I know on the high school level might get a little bit intimidated because they go watch a college baseball game or college football. It's bigger, it's faster. And when you get to the major leagues, it's bigger and faster. So I think the mindset has to be getting yourself in that position to be ready to take that next level and practicing. And, everybody says practice on the stuff that you don't do well. Yes. But remember, what you do well, you still got to practice that to keep the good stuff going with your ability. So I just think to take it to the next level, you have to do all those little things, the weight training, the agilities, all that stuff to get to the next level. Because trust me when I tell you this, everybody can field, throw, hit, and run at our level. So the guy who does it consistently every day is the one that's going to stick around and be in the game for a longer period of time.
Oh yeah, that's great. On that note, the thing about Dodgers RBI is we are a very recreational baseball and softball program for our families and for our youth that are in the program. So we do have kids that do want to work really hard and try to get to that next level and potentially maybe be a college athlete and who knows what else down the road. But one thing that we've seen, and I think we see a lot with youth sports, is kind of the fading out of kids that once they get to that 12 or 13, right when they're entering into high school, they kind of fade away from youth sports. But we're hearing that the longer that kids can stay in youth sports, the more successful they are, the better they do in school. Do you have any advice maybe for parents and coaches to encourage kids to continue to play as they get older?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I know, maybe we were just talking about this the other day. I think with all the baseball going on, I'm just taking baseball, all the travel ball, kids are starting to get burned out at a younger age because all they're doing is playing baseball, all year round. Well, I said to them, maybe cut out baseball for a few months and let them play basketball or play different sports, be more athletic. Because now if you go, that's what I did when I was growing up. My dad let me play football, basketball, and baseball. Then because of football got a little bit more, the physical contact, he took me out of football. And at that time he thought he saw some, ability in me being in baseball, but he let me play basketball. So I knew I was going to play basketball. I knew I was going to play baseball. And when I got to high school, I wasn't burned out. I wanted to keep playing. I wanted to go to the next level. So I think in today's, what I'm seeing in today's society and in this world, that we're getting too much focused on being in one sport. I'm hearing now in high schools, if you don't play in one, they won't let you play two sports. Well, to me, that's a disadvantage, because the more kids are playing in different sports, one, you're not burning them out. And two, they continue to play at a higher level from high school to college, minor leagues, whatever it is, because it all started at an earlier age. So yes, I encourage to keep playing sports. It helps you in all capacity of life. You meet new people, you're in different atmospheres. Like we were talking about team chemistries, all that stuff comes in, and it just makes you a better person in my eyes.
Yeah, we hear more and more about the burnout from athletes, especially like you were saying with travel ball, and then not being able to participate in multiple sports and staying too focused on one. That's a really great point, and I really would encourage families to let their kids try multiple sports as well. And then finally, kind of on the similar type of topic, one thing that we do see is we see parents trying to get their kids still involved in sports. They know there's a lot of benefits to playing sports, but sometimes you'll see potentially a 14 or 15, 16-year-old trying to get into baseball or softball for the first time. So we've had some parents ask questions about, how to maybe get them caught up. What kind of advice could you give them to an older teenager that wants to play and maybe get caught up so they're not too far behind against the competitively?
Well, it's never too late in my eyes. If somebody wants to start playing in 14, 15, 16-year-olds and they never played, I have a nephew who never played at the lower levels, and then he started pitching as a junior in high school, and he got a scholarship. He got academically scholarship at a D3 school, and he made their team as a left-handed pitcher in North Carolina. So it's never too late, people. It's, to me, when you want to start to play, I think it just becomes, again, you got to work hard. You got to go practice every day. You got to work harder than the next person. I tell this story all the time, is when I tell my young boys, when they're inside playing video games, there's other kids outside playing baseball or basketball or football to be better. So at an older age, I would just recommend that just get out there. Maybe you have to go join a gym. You got to go get, the strength and agility coaches on your side. Find a place that's going to teach that stuff to get you caught up. Go out there, get on a team, play on Saturdays and Sundays as much as you can, because to me, once you have a uniform on, nobody could ever stop you what you want to do. And I've always said that, don't ever let nobody stop you. When you have a uniform on, you can do what you want to do. You got to believe in yourself.
Oh, that's great. We've been really lucky to be able to work with the Dodgers Training Academy over the years. They allow us to take all of our big groups of our Dodgers RBI players over to their academy and work out, something that a lot of our players have never had the opportunity to do. And no matter if you're a beginner or advanced, they have all different types of workouts and training that you can do. So they all really, really love it. So I think parents can really like to hear that, because I do think that some parents feel a little bad. Maybe they didn't get their kids involved in sports and they're reluctant to get them involved later. But I think it's great to encourage them to give it a shot.
My advice, it's never, never too late. Never, never.
And then, one thing that I thought you kind of made a point to mention it earlier was just your relationship with your coaches and the managers of teams and things like that. We had a lot of parents ask questions about maybe how, a parent sometimes is a child's first coach. And, even when it comes to as kids get older, you get really comfortable with the coach, you get familiar with the coach. How do players transition to new coaches, new attitudes, new personalities? And maybe how could you give advice on to get comfortable in a new surroundings, potentially with a new team or new coaches?
Yeah, I think that's huge because I just put myself in that situation last year, leaving the Angels and coming to spring training, coming to a new team, being on the other side of the diamond. I used to see these guys, the Dodger players when we played them, but now I'm in the same clubhouse. So, I just went to them and I opened myself up. I talked to them. I get to know them. I always encourage the players to ask questions. When you're out doing your drills, never be afraid to ask a question. There's that old saying, there's never a dumb question. That is absolutely right. And I said that to the Seagers and the Justin Turners and the Kike Hernandezes, everybody on that team. I would make sure that I would go to them and just ask them, what do they like? What do they want me to do? Or they would ask me how I felt about things. So I think I would encourage kids at any level to get to know your coach. They want to get to know you, ask questions, and build that relationship. Again, I always go back to communicating, build a relationship, and the trust factor. Those three things will come into play when they know, as players and coaches, when they have a good relationship and they trust one another, they can talk to each other and things will go in the right direction. And there's no different, even with mom and dads. I got 3 kids. I got 4 grandbabies. I got 2 young boys in the house, and it's all about communicating and, all that stuff that we talk about. Never be afraid to ask questions. I think that would be the biggest thing for me for players, young kids, to ask their coaches. Ask them.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, the healthy relationships. Similarly, between a student and a teacher, same kind of thing. The better your relationship is there, similar to a player and a coach. But kind of on that note, we've had some questions as well, as far as, and maybe you could relate this because you've coached in a variety of levels, from the minors to the majors. What about coaches transitioning potentially? They started out coaching little league or T-ball ages. Now they're trying to coach middle school age kids or high school age kids with, totally different attitudes and personalities. Can you give any advice on the different age groups and maturity levels as you move from role to role as a coach?
I think the biggest advice is just make an adjustment as a coach. Obviously the higher the level you go, there's going to be adjustments. So at higher levels, just put me in example right now at the major league level, guys want to hear the truth. They want to know when they make mistakes. Now, as a coach, you have to tell them. So there's going back to that communicating and relationship. That's where that comes into play. But I think we as coaches have to make adjustments every day, even to this day. There might be something that I hear from another coach that I put it into my game plan, and it might help one of our players. So when you go from level to level, the number one thing that I've watched, and when I went to go see my boys when they were in T-ball, is the coaches that are donating their time, they have to have patience. That's the biggest thing, that at the lower levels, you got to have patience. You got to be positive. You're trying to just teach them how to throw and catch, the basic fundamentals of the game. But as you go to different levels, now you're going to have to start making adjustment at coaches, preparing game plans, preparing practice plans, being more organized, being on a schedule. So those are the things that I would suggest to coaches that are making the next level up to the levels they want to get to. Those are the most important things for me.
Wow. Yeah, that's really, really great advice and feedback. Really, thank you so much for all of this, great information you've been giving to everyone on just such a variety of topics. Really, really helpful. But I'm hoping you don't mind. Some of our attendees really wanted to learn a little bit about more of your role as the third base coach for the Dodgers. And, I think a lot of, I don't know about if you have to maybe be a hardcore fan, but maybe the casual fans don't really maybe know all the details about being a third base coach, what that involves, what you're doing over there when you're out there at third base. Could you talk a little bit more about, maybe some of the most exciting or interesting parts about being a third base coach?
Yeah, that's, being a third base coach, it's like the next thing being as a player on the field, because you're in that moment, when that ball's hit, you have to make a decision really fast. But as you all know, I talk about it all the time, being prepared, being knowing the outfielder's arms, knowing the situation of the game, who's our base runner, who's on deck, who's in the hole. It's almost all those years that I've managed, I put that into my game plan as a third base coach. And, you have to, third base coaches out there, you're going to get guys thrown out. Somebody's going to get thrown out, but that's okay because they have to make that perfect throw. But I think for me, being a bench coach in the major leagues for 4 years and going on my 11th year as a third base coach in the major leagues, that's the most next thing of playing a game. When I'm at Dodger Stadium and I'm hearing the fans and the chant is on, the music's rocking and Bellinger's at the plate and Seager's at second base and the ball's hit, I got to make a decision. I know where those outfielders are playing. I know if they can go to their left or right. Are they good coming in? If they plus arm, minus arm, all that stuff is in play before the ball is hit. So as third base coaches at any level, I think, again, give yourself some room, come down the line, let the play develop, and be aggressive. And just the scoreboard would dictate when to be aggressive, when not to. Always look who's on deck, who's in the hole, because if you don't send a guy, they might walk the next guy, and then the guy in the hole is the hitter. Those are the things that are going through my head when that ball, before the ball is hit. A lot of things, but you know what? I love it.
Probably, yeah, definitely a lot of things. Just the trust and relationship between the players, are they 100% bought in? They're looking at you, heading your way. They're doing whatever you say. How do you develop maybe that trust with the players, especially when you're a newer coach on the team?
Yes, that's the trust factor. So in spring training, I get with all the players, all the position players. I tell them, I show them. We go on backfields when we're going through our drills. I tell them where I'm going to be. Some players might say, Dino, I want you to be here. Then I'm there. Some players want me to go down the line. I'm there. So those are the things I put in the back of my head that I know every player on our team knows where when they look up, I'm going to be in that spot. Now, a guy might get thrown out, and at the end of the day, I'm going to take the blame. So I always tell the players as a third base coach, I will take the blame if I get you thrown out. Now, if we make a mistake on the basis, it's still my fault. I will take the blame, but we got to go back and practice that, cutting angles. Again, when a player knows you have their back, they're going to trust you. But all that stuff is done in spring training. So I advise coaches today when I go speak, everybody wants to hit, everybody wants to throw, everybody wants to field, but a lot of teams don't practice base running. And to win the game, you got to score runs. And it might be that one play in the third inning, you send a guy and he scores, and that could be the winning run. So base running is important. So I always communicate with our players where I'm going to be when I send them.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, I know that trust factor and getting comfortable with everyone is probably really important. And when you get that good chemistry together, that's when a lot of good things can really happen. There's something I definitely have to ask you, though. I was able to watch a little kind of interview that you did with the Dodgers about kind of your running routine and your daily habits and routines. But you were able to predict a ball bouncing in the dirt right before the pitch was going to be thrown. How does a coach, or how do you pick up on little things like that? How did you see that coming?
Well, in our scouting report before the game, I knew Ubaldo Jimenez was pitching, and I know he throws a lot of, split finger fastballs. So a lot of split finger fastballs are going to go down in the dirt. So preparing myself before the game started, we get some base runners on base. I told them all in the dugout as they were getting loose and ready for the game, hey, be a little bit more aggressive today because we got a guy that's going to throw a lot of balls in the dirt and want for us to swing and miss. So that's the start of it, being prepared, letting the player know. It wasn't a full scouting report, just a little quick jab to the player. Hey, this guy's going to throw some dirt balls today. Be aggressive. And then I can remember the play in spring. Gavin Lux is on first. Ubaldo Jimenez throws the dirt ball. Boom, he gets to second. Catcher throws it in the center. He comes to third. So I tell him again, I said, listen, this is the same thing. He's going to throw some balls in the dirt. Maybe he gets away from that catcher. Shortstop is the third baseman is way in the six hole because the shift is on. So I tell Gavin, you know what? If he bounces one here, you got such a great lead. You're going to beat the pitcher to the plate. And sure enough, the ball was bounced. But it's just preparing the player. That's all a coach has to do. And when now Gavin tells me afterwards, hey, Dino, oh my God, you're like the Tony Romo of football. And I'm like, you know what, Gavin, that's our job, man. If I didn't tell you that, then I would be feeling bad myself not telling you that information. I got a chuckle out of that.
That was perfect. You were mic'd up. The announcers heard it. It was like the next play right after you had mentioned it. And then, yeah, just like you said, the throw went into the outfield, and yeah, that was really, really great. You know, I really, really just want to thank you again, but I want to say Jeannie from PCA Positive Coaching Alliance, she just can't, she's too excited. She would love to ask you another question, a little bit about yourself. So Jeannie, are you there?
I'm here. I'm so excited. Here, we're going to give you a double high five again, Coach Dino, a double fist bump, and then here's the hug coming too, right here.
All right.
There it is.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much. I've got a couple of questions, but I do want to know, do you have a personal mistake ritual? Like I talked about the flush, but do you have a personal mistake ritual? And can you give us your whistle? Because I love your whole whistle thing. You're famous for the whistle. Can you give us a couple of whistle things that you do? And can you share how you learned how to whistle?
Well, this is a true story. You know, I never knew how to whistle without, you know, I always whistle with my fingers in my mouth. I learned that at a younger age, but again, there's some great coaches that told me a good coach would whistle without fingers in their mouth. So all I kept doing was going home that night, trying to practice, just blowing out of my mouth. And finally I learned the whistle. Now, you know, this whistle I have, it's crazy. It could be 56,000 people in the stadium. It's louder than you can imagine. And it's there's a certain pitch those players know. When I whistle, they all look to the dugout and they all look for me. So that was something I established earlier when I was with the Angels. And then last year with the Dodgers, when it's really loud, I got to use the two finger to get it out there. But if it's in the infield, I don't use the fingers. I just learn how to, you know, blow the whistle out of the mouth. But yeah, I've had those questions asked to me, like, why do you whistle? Well, you know, I don't want to be, you know, hands up in the air and jumping up and down to get the player attention. But there's a certain pitch to the whistle that those players knows it's me, and they all look for help if we're in the shift.
Can you share it with us? Go ahead, give us the whistle. That is too fun.
I don't know. You know, a coach beside me whistles, and none of the players look at me. They look at that other coach. But when I whistle, they all look at me. So I don't know what the whistle, the tone of it, I guess that's what they're looking for.
And then do you have any personal mistake rituals that you use?
Well, I agree what you said about, you know what, flush it down the toilet, because as third base coaches, you know, we can go 2-3 weeks of everything's working our way. And then one night you can get a couple guys thrown out the plate. But I always tell coaches to this day, you know what, mistakes are going to be made, but you got to be able to get past it. It's by you, it's history. And I never used the term flush it, but now I'm going to start using that. So
you just did your own personal mistake ritual. You just did this.
Get it behind. Yep, it's by
you. Get
you.
it behind you. From Coach Dino, get it behind you. I love it. That's perfect.
Yep, it's by you. It's by me. Now the next play, I got to be on top of it. And you know what? There's been a lot of coaches that get a little bit gun shy, and they get a couple guys thrown out, and they get a little bit nervous, and then they're not being themselves. But always stay aggressive, let it get by you, and look for the next play.
Thank you so much, Coach. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Thank you, Jeannie. And I think we have one more great question for you, Coach Dino, which will kind of bring everything all together. Because so many of our attendees today are parents, they're coaches, whether they coach in T-ball all the way up to high school age, just a lot of parents and families that are involved in all of this together. So we have Brian from the Dodgers Training Academy that would like to ask you one question about that.
Okay.
How's it going, Dino?
Oh, I'm great, man. Good to see you.
Good. Good to see you. Hopefully you get to play some baseball soon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the question we have is, as a coach and a father, what steps do you believe a parent should take to seek out an instructor, a coach, a team that'll be right for their development as players and people?
Yeah, that's important. I think because I'm going through that now. I live here in Rancho Cucamonga, and there's different programs. So I go in and I watch when my boys were in school, I go watch them practice, I go watch them play. I talk to the coaches. I see what's important for them, what's on their agenda. So I think it's good for parents to go and see that type of atmosphere, that coach is positive energy. That's one thing I am straight looking for, a coach that has a lot of positive energy and not negative and always pushing the players to get better. And two, are they about development? Are they only about winning? You hear all the bad stories all the time about young kids just throwing 100, 120 pitches all because they want to win the game. Well, to me, that's not good, because a good coach in today's game will take care of that player. Yes, could end up costing them a loss, but in the long run, that player has, his arm strength is there and he doesn't get hurt with injury. So those are, I think, the important things. You hear about all these, bad stories about it's all about the money. People are just trying to get your money. But I would go talk to the coaches. I would go look at different programs and just to see what your eyes, or ask different parents, ask kids what they do. What's the coach like? Just, again, go back to asking questions. But for me, I just was important for wins and losses is not really important to me. It's about developing and creating, like we talked about, good culture, good team chemistry, learning on the field every day, practice habits, team schedules. That's the kind of stuff that I look forward to when I go put my boys in, youth programs in today down here in Rancho.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you.
You got it.
Wow, that was so much good information. Coach Dino, really, really just want to say thank you again for taking the time to be on our virtual coaches training with us. I think everyone learned just a lot of really, really great information. We're going to take a quick little photo of all the panelists right now. So panelists,